Hi, Gianna.
Hi, Stacy.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Welcome y'all to the So Podcast, S.E.W.W. So whether you're single, engaged, wedded, or widowed, come on in. We have some things to unravel today, and we have some great things in our pink cushion today, don't we, Gianna?
Yes, we
And
do.
I'm excited about this episode because I think what we are getting ready to talk about is just important in the grand scheme of life, right? Not just for the sake of a show or an episode, but we want people to know that we actually care about them. And so I think what we're getting ready to share is going to be some amazing, amazing information for women. So, but before we do that, what's going on with you? How was your week? How are you? How is Gianna feeling?
I am doing great. I had a good week this week. Everything went the way it was supposed to go.
And isn't
I,
that's awesome?
that's awesome. That's awesome.
It
So,
really is.
I'm glad that the week is over though. But
Mm-hmm.
I had a good week. What about you? How was your week?
The week was okay. I wish I could say that it was great. As you know, I had a little midweek breakdown, but
Mhm.
it just reminds me of how grateful I am for family. Like I told you, my aunt didn't hesitate, and she was just like, "I'm on my way." And so I think it's such a blessing to have. People in your life, people in your corner who care about you and say, no, you're not okay. I'm not okay. I'm coming, right?
Mhm.
Talked about that with our first episode in friendship, right? So I am rebounding, right? I'm rebounding from feeling blue, and but I'm today I'm good. I'm in a better place, and we're moving forward, right? We got things to do, so that's how my week was. And but I am believing for a better week, with personally, with business, with everything. So I know God is working some things out. So that's what I'm most excited about. What made the week flow for you, you think, at
I
work?
I think it's because I was able to get some things done. So what I decided to do at the beginning of the week, it might have been kind of rough, but what I decided to do was try and organize my time in a different way
Okay.
and pull myself away from distractions for a
Yes.
certain amount of time, and then
Uh,
that way I can work on whatever I need to work on, accomplish whatever I need to accomplish. So even if I don't get everything done, I can get some of the main things done, and then I can feel like I accomplished something. Um, so that's what made it flow. I was able to get some things accomplished, get some things done that I needed to get done.
I think we always have those little when you can check things off your list, right? And I think it just makes you feel good. You get
Mm-hmm.
those good endorphins, I think, even flowing when you're like, okay, this is done, that is done, this is
Mm-hmm.
I feel good with things like that too. But I think what made me feel better is I love to pour into people, and
Mm-hmm.
so with my business, that's what I get to do, pour into people. So as I began to pour into people and connecting with clients and things of that sort, it inevitably made me feel better. So, but I think we have those days that are great and everything flows, and then you have the days when you don't, and it's okay. The one of the things that I read in my devotional today was just talking about, trusting me even when things are chaotic, and just like turning your attention to not the chaos, but just turning your attention to God, and like, okay, Lord, what are you showing me through this? Do I need to slow down? Do I need to just not put so much emphasis on certain things, right? So I think that's a good practice. I wish I could say I was good at it.
Practice makes perfect.
Practice.
Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. So we got some great things to talk about today, and this topic really came organically. It came up organically, right? It wasn't something that we planned for. So I think what our viewers are going to see is just it's what we want them to see, right? We want them to see just incredible dialogue based, obviously, from our experiences, our perspectives, the things that we've experienced, and all of those things. But in the pin cushion today, we have two topics. And the first, well, we'll talk about both transitioning and overcoming.
Mhm.
Transitioning and overcoming. And obviously, that's a loaded statement because I think you can look in every area of your life, whether it's personal, relationships, finances, career, family, and you can see the need oftentimes to transition and to be open to transition. And so I guess we'll talk about a little bit of it all, right? So I think when I think about transitioning, as a young woman, I think I was excited about transitioning because I wanted to keep going and climbing and going, higher with everything. But
Mhm.
as I've gotten older, I think transition to me, it's still exciting, but there's so much more uncertainty with it. I think when you're young and you're vulnerable, transition seems like, okay, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to get this degree and this is what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to get this degree and then this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to start this business and then this is what I'm going to do. But I think as you get older, the excitement isn't there, right? It
Mhm.
has to be more calculated, right? Or at
Mhm.
least we feel it has to be more calculated based on the
Mhm.
life that we've lived. And I know, we're not supposed to say middle age because who determined that this is middle age, right? Like who determined that? But certainly at this stage of life, I look at transition differently. What about you?
I I agree. When I was younger, I don't think I thought so much about it. I think it kind of just flowed a little more. We just got excited about life and we just made decisions and we just kind of did it, right? So I think I agree with what you're saying when you're saying that now, at this stage in life, it is more calculated. It has been for the last few years of life because we're considering what happens during these transitions and what might happen because of this transition, right? So it's like this change, because a transition is just a change, and we know that's the thing that's constant. The only thing that's constant is change. So whether it's something wonderful or something horrible, you can guarantee that it's going to change, that things are going to change, right? So transitioning has made me at times very uncomfortable. So when I was younger, like I said, it kind of flowed a little more. But as I got older, it kind of gave me I don't know if I should call it anxiety or call it like a nervousness, but it kind of gave me maybe a fear, I guess I want to say. Um when things are changing, even if it's growth, right? So even if it's a transition that's taking me somewhere higher or taking me somewhere that's ultimately going to be better, it's still like this nervousness about it because it's like I don't know what's on the other side of this transition. So I'm fearful of it because it may go this way, it may go that way. And it's like we kind of think about all of that stuff at once when we probably didn't when we were younger. We probably just kind of took more risk and kind of just accepted that that's the way that life was. But now it's like, okay, this change is happening in my life, and what is it gonna mean? One of the things I think about when I think about transitioning is, when you're in a stage of your life, right? And you're in a comfortable state, and you're like, okay, so I've accomplished the job that I want to accomplish. I've accomplished the family that I want to establish. I want, and you kind of, we always want a little more. We always want something different a little bit. And something is happening, whether it be you're a mom and now your kids are gone and you have to live life without them. So now you're transitioning into another stage of life. Or even with us as women, we're changing, our bodies are changing, our you know, and that affects our lives in a way that I'm not sure people who are not women understand, right? So it's like these transitions that you're going through can be kind of scary because it's like, okay, I'm changing, life is changing, but what's on the other side of this change? So I agree that when you're young, listen, let's go, bring it on.
Bring it
But
on.
now, now it's like, okay, so how are these changes gonna affect me? What's gonna happen as a result of this change or this transition? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking up the definition of transition, and Oxford English Dictionary says transition is a process or a period of
Mhm,
changing from one state or condition to another. And there's a word in there that I think most people don't like, which is process.
mhm,
Process, right? And
mhm,
that's what transitions are.
mhm,
When I look back, over my professional career, right? Going to college, getting out of college, having a brief stint in education, right?
mhm,
Just kind of knowing that this was not what I wanted to do forever, even though I love the kids and I love, work, because kids are just amazing. They really are. When they're happy, when they're sad, when they're in between, when they want to be, little grown women and men. Like I just love kids, right? But I knew that I wanted to transition into something different. I just didn't know what. And so an opportunity was presented to me, and I didn't think I would, I just thought it was just going to be something fun and on the side. But what I didn't realize is that God had a bigger plan for me than I had for myself, right? So He transitioned me. He knew in my heart it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And I was willing to do it because I needed a paycheck.
mhm,
I needed to take care of myself. So I was willing to do it. But I transitioned from one thing to the other. And I think what we don't realize sometimes too are the things that we're doing in transition help us to move forward into what it is that we're supposed to be doing, because
mhm,
I didn't realize that me teaching for those few short years that I would still be teaching today. I just happen to teach adult women, right, how to build businesses. And so,
mhm,
but that period of time, it helped me to transition. And I think what I'm thinking about now is how the things that I've learned being in my career for almost 23 years, the things that I've learned, I think one of the biggest things is because, like you said a few minutes ago, we all want more, right? So while I love what I do, I still want more. So now I'm like, okay, how do I use what I've gotten in these 23 years to transition to my next? And it has been the scariest thing to think about. And I think, especially wrestling with doubt sometimes, like, okay, well, I know how to do this well, but how does that translate
mhm,
into something else? How do I create more value with what I've learned into the next thing? Because I want
mhm,
more. And I
mhm,
want more not just for me, but for the people around me. I think with aging parents, and with nieces and nephews, and I know you're a mom,
mhm,
Gianna, we want to give and we want to pour in certain places. And I think when you really want to do that, you have to transition upward.
mhm,
And like you said, we get comfortable. Like, well,
mhm,
I know I make this amount of money. I know I can travel. I know I can do some of the things that I want. But is that all you want? And if
mhm,
it's not, then transition is necessary, because we are always processing. I
mhm,
really do believe that. Whether it's, relationships, whether it's, family, whether, whatever, we're always processing. So I think being resistant to the process can become counterproductive if
mhm,
you really want to be an overcomer, which is what we're going to talk about. But I think it's counterproductive to the process. And I love that in our conversations, Gianna, you're always so like, no, it's going to be amazing. No, no, it's not going to be like this. No. And I think having people to remind you um of the fact that you can do it, like we were talking earlier, and you were like, no, that's who you used to be. That's
mhm,
over with now.
mhm.
And I think it's so important to have people in your circle to remind you, like that might have been you. You might have been stumbling in transition, but that's
Mhm.
not you anymore.
Mhm.
I think another thing, like unexpected transitions.
Mm.
Woo! Have you ever had any of those?
I have, I have, you know, I won't say that we all have. I don't think everybody um is has to go through something that they're not prepared to go through. But I think that when we have transitions or we have change that we're not prepared for, that we don't expect, that's kind of the toughest transition. Um because we expect life to be a certain way. Um and when it's not, it's it's hard, it's tough. Um you expect things to not necessarily stay like they are, but you expect that as you grow older, there is um there is a there's some kind of sameness, if that makes sense. So there's an expectation that this is how life is going to go even through changes. So I may expect, okay, my kids going to get older, my kids are going to leave, um they're going to start their own families, but you don't expect that something may happen. Like for example, a kid may leave and come back. You have to transition because you expect when they go, but then they come back. And then you have to transition. You have to change your life. You have to accommodate that. You don't have to, but you may choose to. You
Hmm.
may choose to. And if you choose to, then you're things are gonna change. You're gonna transition. So there are unexpected transitions. I think that we are supposed to grow and change. And I think resistance to it is what causes, you said something like that a few minutes ago, like, when you try and resist it or you try and fight against it, like that causes a lot of I guess like issues, even if you're afraid. Because I think because I'm afraid, sometimes I think everybody is, or I expect people to be. So when there's change going on, I expect people to be nervous or afraid about it. But I think that I'm learning at this big age that I have to kind of change my mind about it. I know I say that a lot, but I have to change my mind about it so that it kind of flows. So if when I'm transitioning, when something is going on, something is changing, and I'm resistant to it, I have to kind of recognize that I'm being resistant to it, or that I'm fearful of it, and try and work through it in order to, like you say, overcome. you
Hmm.
know, to in order to get to the other side of whatever it is I'm going through.
Yeah, the key is leaning in when transition comes, right? Um, but I don't think we were taught to lean in.
Hmm.
Mm. But
I think we were
that
taught to
might
be
be an
happy
unfair
with.
statement. That might be an unfair statement because
Hmm.
if no one has ever been taught that, who do you expect to? How do you expect to have gotten something from someone who didn't get it either? So
Okay.
that's why I just had to kind of stop myself. But so the validity of it is true. Like maybe we weren't taught to lean in,
Hmm.
but maybe now that's a conversation that we need to have for younger people, right?
Hmm.
When life happens, I think about for example, kids who go off to college with high hopes of being this athletic mogul,
Hmm.
making it to the league, right? When we know
Hmm.
that there's such a tiny, tiny percentage of those kids who are selected each year to actually go into the NFL or the NBA or the,
Hmm.
Major League Baseball or, whatever the sport is. There's such a tiny fraction of those people that get to go. And of course, you want your person, your superstar to make it. But
Hmm.
what happens when they don't? Or
Hmm.
if they don't? What is the preparation? And of course, I think now, I'm sure mothers are saying, go to school, get your degree, because we've seen enough of people, right?
Mhm.
Desire to make it, not make it, and then become lost, right?
Mhm.
I was talking to one of my clients and she was telling me about, and she graduated from high school before we were even born. She graduated from high school, I think, like maybe in 1970 or something. And
Mhm.
she was just talking about, casually talking about, someone who she had gone to high school with who made it, out of South Florida and was playing for the Dallas Cowboys in the early 70s and
Mhm.
got injured. He had the wife, he had the money, he had the kids, everything. He got injured and then he got, sued and then legal fees and then his wife left him and he literally is like just getting himself back together over the last, decade or so.
Wow.
So you talk about transition to go from very humble beginnings to now you're on top of the world, and
Mhm.
then shortly thereafter being on top of the world with the family, the money, the fame, the recognition, the
Mhm.
praise. Now you lose all of it and nobody has taught you how to transition, how to
Mhm.
pick yourself up and pivot. And I don't think we're taught that. I think we're taught to just go for what you want. Go for
Mhm.
what you want and figure it out when when and if it doesn't come together. And I
Mhm.
just don't know if that's a good plan of action. And like I
Mhm.
said, I think, mothers now with their kids going into, the NBA and the NFL specifically, they're like, no, you're going to save some of this money. You see a lot of mothers who are managers, right, of their
Mhm.
kids, and they're like, no, you're going to invest some things. You're going to put money in trust. You're going to do, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Because we've had so many examples of people that have been at the top and then at the bottom, and there's nobody there to pull them up.
Mhm.
And I think the conversation is worthy though, right? So you
Mhm.
also have, if you have a kid that's, going to college, I feel like you have to say, you got to get this degree. You got to
Mhm.
get this degree. You got to have some other interests because you can't put all your eggs in this one basket. Yes, we want you to make it. Yes, but even if you don't, we want you to have some type of safety net and cushion,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, because transition happens. I don't think it's if, I think it's when.
Mhm.
So I think it happens to all of us, but how well you do it is a different story. And it could be like that's something obvious that, we know about athletes and stuff like that. But what about daily life? So if I could um, give an example, like, all of my family, we are Floridians, right? Everybody is born and raised in Florida. And now, there's no one, all of my family, my immediate family have moved away, right? And I had no idea 4 years ago how their transitioning
Mhm.
would affect me.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
It
So
does.
other people that you're close to, their transitioning also affects you. And I
Mhm.
think that's something that until you're faced with it, you really don't understand it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
how do we, I guess the question would be, how do we prepare? Do you think preparation is even possible?
So just no, just knowing that it's a part of life. Um, just knowing that change happens and we have to accept it and not be resistant to it. And you're not, because you're not going to always have a plan for it, especially if it's unexpected. I know you said like about kids who go away, and I work with kids. And even though the kids that I work with are middle school age kids, there are still a lot of parents and students or little boys who have that expectation without a plan B. So there are still a lot of parents, or there are still a lot of people, I guess I'll say, that don't have a plan, or that is their plan. That is their plan. So your plan is to be a football player, or your plan is to be a basketball player. And if you don't do it, you don't have a plan B. So what happens sometimes is it leads to when they're not successful, even if they may be in middle school or high school and the best player on the team. And what happens is if they don't make it past high school and there's a transition that takes place, there's an injury, there's or even if you just don't make it because there's thousands of you and not that many positions to fit you in, right? Because you're talking about making it to a college team. So when that happens and sometimes they're faced with it, you can see because they are not able to transition some of the effects that it has on them and their families, because there's this expectation like this is how we're gonna win, this is our plan. And then when that doesn't happen, then it can have negative effects. And sometimes the people who can't transition, they don't overcome and they get stuck. So
Yeah.
if you're even if you're not expecting a transition, if you can't get past it, you can end up being stuck and um and not move and not move.
Mm-hmm.
You just stay where you are, and even if you're not where you want to be, you just stay where you are, and that can lead to unhappiness, depression, things like that.
A whole downward spiral
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
sure. I
Mhm.
think transitioning, just overall, right, as a woman, right, um, it's hard. Right? We go from the average woman, you know, has so many roles and so many hats to wear, right?
Mhm.
From mother to wife to daughter, to best friend, right? We put a
Mhm.
lot of emphasis on friendship. If you haven't
Mhm.
watched our first episode, go back and look at friendship, right? But I think we wear so many hats that I think transition can become exhausting. Like when
Mhm.
you think about, I got to be this for my kids, right?
Mhm.
And like if you have two kids or three kids or four
Mhm.
kids, that's not one transition as a mother. You got four other human beings or three other human beings or two other human beings that you're
Mhm.
transitioning for and with, right? Um,
Mhm.
because I'm a firm believer, even though I'm not a mom, and I'm sure you would agree with this, like you carry the emotions of your children as well. Right? You don't just carry your own emotions, you
Mhm.
carry theirs as well, and you're supporting them as they're transitioning. And
Mhm.
sometimes I know that's got to be hard. Like being a mom has got to be the hardest hardest and the most rewarding, right?
Mhm.
Job that a woman will ever have. But you have that to transition with and through. If you're in a relationship with with someone,
Mhm.
the transitions that take place within that relationship. If you're a daughter, right, and your parents. So there are just so many different hats that I think women wear, and I think sometimes we just get exhausted. I think women just are tapping out and trying to
Mhm.
live their lives, because I think you can wake up one day and be 40 or 45 or whatever, and you think, I have done everything that I possibly can for everybody else. What
Mhm.
about me?
Mhm.
What about me? What about the things that I like to do? What about the things that I want to try, the places I want to go, the things I want to see? And a lot of times, I think most women would agree, maybe not all, but we're still responsible for that too. So nobody's coming in and helping us with those things, right? We're still responsible for our own transition and our own happiness. So how do we do all of that for other people and then still have some left over for ourselves? Or do you think we just got to take it?
So ultimately, I think that we're responsible anyway for ourselves. We just don't realize it. I'm not sure where it comes from, where that came from, where is everything like I'm responsible for everybody else first. I'm responsible for the kids. I'm responsible for my significant other. I'm responsible for my parents who are aging. I'm responsible for all these things.
Mhm.
And it's true that you may be, but you're responsible for yourself first. And I think that when we're transitioning, especially, I feel like every few years, personally, I'm going through some kind of transition. It may be mild, it may be major, but I feel like there's something like there's something going on, like something needs to change, something needs to be shedded, something needs to grow. If we don't take the time out to take care of ourselves, then we get lost. And that's one of the hardest things to come back from. Because when you're a mom, I have two kids. I had a son who played basketball, football, ran track, uh whatever. Whatever it was, he did it. He was good at it. So that meant that he had to be there. He did it. He's very driven. So it was important to him to do well at things that he did. So, mom got to go. I had a daughter, or I have a daughter. I have a daughter. And she was in school and she was in drama and she wanted to perform and do this. So we got to go to this practice, that practice. So your life becomes whatever they need. I was also a wife at the time. Your life becomes whatever they need. And if you don't take care of you, then you get lost in that. And then when there's no longer that, there's no longer kids to take to practice. There's no longer husband to cook for, clean up after, organize. When there's no longer any of that, then who are you? And
Mm.
that's a big like eye-opening transition, because it's like, okay, what do I like to eat? I know what my son like to eat. I know what my daughter like to eat. I know where they like to go. I know, but what about what I like to do? What about what I like to eat? What about how am I going to spend my time now? What am I going to do for me? How am I going to rest? How am I going to recover? How am I going to recoup? Like, we have to be able to, like, self-care. I know that's like a word now, self-care, but caring for yourself and putting yourself first makes the transition easier. Even though it's tough, caring for yourself and kind of putting yourself first is important when you're transitioning, because that's how you're going to get through it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
as you were talking, Gianna, I was just kind of thinking about feeling that even though I don't have any children, feeling
Mm-hmm.
that exact same way because I've been a business owner since I was really young.
Mm-hmm.
Put so much effort and energy into building a business, right? Like just, going all out to build a business, to really create something magical, right? I think I feel the exact same way. Like I knew what had to happen for the business. I knew the numbers. I knew the connections. I knew the people. I knew what had to be done, and I worked diligently to fulfill all of those things while a lot of times ignoring myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm living in the repercussions of some of those things, right? And I don't get me wrong. I love my business, right? I feel very privileged um to do what I do, but I have those same feelings. So I think it was just I think whatever you're putting energy into that's not yourself, it can have that same effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what's one tip to transition to you?
Be open to it. Know that it's gonna happen, right? Like, there's no avoiding change, and just be open to it, and feel however you feel about it, and just work through it. Like, and if you need help, ask for help. Ask for help, because sometimes we go through things alone. When we have friends that may be going through the same thing that we're going through, and can, even if you're just talking about it, you know, like I said, it's gonna happen. We just have to be able to do it.
For sure. I agree 100%. 100%. So I agree, Gianna. And I think if I had to give anyone like a tip, if you will, it would be kind of like yours, but to really find one thing. Because I think sometimes we try to transition our whole life. We want to we want to be the most organized. We want to have the best clean diet. We want to have strengthen our relationship with God, strengthen our repair our relationships with family, and we want to do all of these things, when we could just pick one thing that we know we need to transition with and lean into that process. So if that's, being, a better businesswoman, if it's being a better partner, if it's being, what do you need to do to transition, to make it easier for you, to make it better, right? To make it something that you want. I think that's one of the biggest things that we can do is just take things one day at a time. And I'm talking to myself with this, like, be gracious to yourself. Because
Mm-hmm.
we beat ourselves up as women all the time. Because you even said, Gianna, who told us that we're supposed to be doing all of these things in the first
Mm-hmm.
place? But we live in a patriarchal society.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that we have learned to do is, centered around men. That's a
Mm-hmm.
whole nother topic. Y'all wait till you really get comfortable talking. So I won't even go there today. But I think it's finding one thing for yourself, right? That you want to transition. So it might be your career. It might be reading books that will help you, finding mentors, that you can look up to. Not all of your mentors have to be accessible by phone or text. You can
Mm-hmm.
find someone that just resonates with you, right? And study that person, find out as much as you can about that person. So that's what I would say with transitioning. Like, lean into whatever you need to lean into, because one day it's not going to feel as hard
Mm-hmm.
if
Absolutely.
you lean into it. But if you keep resisting it, if you keep saying, I can't do it, then you're giving life to that. And you don't want to give life to what you want to what you don't want. You want to give
Mm-hmm.
life to what you do want.
Mm-hmm.
Pin cushion number two. Come on.
Overcoming. So we said that we were going to talk about our pincushions today or tonight. We're going to be transitioning and overcoming. So sometimes when we're transitioning, there may be an obstacle. There may be something that we need to get over, something that we need to overcome. So overcoming is similar to transitioning in that there's some type of change that's taking place. But when you overcome it, it's when you deal with whatever is difficult. So transitioning, while that can be something that's good, that can be, it can be something good, it can be something, it's just a change. But overcoming means successfully dealing with or gaining control of something difficult, like a problem, an obstacle, a strong feeling, just something that you're resistant to, something that you're resistant to that you're able to get over. So
Mhm.
overcoming, yeah.
I think one of the things that we didn't talk about with transitioning is you can also transition backwards. I think the inclination is to think about transitioning to go higher, to do more,
Mhm.
to have more, to be more. But what about when you transition backwards?
Mhm.
That's your opportunity to overcome.
Mhm.
And I feel like we've all overcome many things, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's your fear of heights. I talk about this all the time. All the time. I remember being really young, and my cousin, who's like my brother, we were raised like brother and sister. The oldest two grandchildren, right? And I remember him being attacked attacked by a dog when we were
Mhm.
young.
Mhm.
And I just couldn't be in a room with dogs. I just couldn't
Mhm.
do it. It was traumatic for all of us, for our whole family. And so now I feel like I've overcome that fear to a great degree. Like, I'm
Mhm.
still cautious when I'm around the little furry pets, but I used to be in a place where I could, if there was a dog in the room,
Mhm.
I'm not coming. right? I'm just not coming. So I'm better. I'm not 100% there, but I'm better. Even the development that I live in is very dog friendly, very pet friendly. And I
Mhm.
didn't know how I was going to be able to deal with that when I moved here, but I'm fine. I see the dogs and, I'm fine. So have I overcome it? I don't know, but I feel like I'm so much better. And that's obviously, it may seem like a small thing to people, but
Mhm.
for me, it's something huge.
Mhm.
So I think the overcoming doesn't always have to be the big, the like, oh my gosh, like I changed my life, I changed my family's life. I did, we want
Mhm.
those things. But what about the small things and acknowledging the things that we overcome that are small? Like what's something you can think of that you've overcome that may not be huge in the eyes of other people, but for you, it's a victory.
Let me see. Something that I've overcome
Hmm.
that may not I may have to come back to that. I know, you know what? I think I've overcome ideas about things, if that makes sense. Because I think that I have had views about things that I've had to change, and I've been resistant to changing my views about them. So I may feel very strongly um, about something, and I may feel like this is the way something should go. And it used to be where if I felt that's the way it should go, I'm not real flexible because this is right or what I know as right and wrong. No gray areas. And I think that when dealing with people and learning people and building relationships with people, sometimes we have to overcome our beliefs about certain things and be open to other people's views or other people's lifestyles or things that other people do. So I think that in some ways I've had to overcome that, if that makes sense.
It does.
So, so not necessarily like some type of life changing thing, but it kind of is life changing. Just because you when you're opening up yourself, you're overcoming limiting beliefs that can prevent you from experiencing things in life.
Right. And I think when you overcome something, it does open up other things, right? Because if you're stuck in one place, 9 times out of 10, every opportunity that's connected to you is connected to your belief system.
Mm-hmm.
But when you open that up and you are a little bit more open, you open yourself up to the possibilities that exist within that realm of thinking too.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that is really huge. Um, I think when I think about overcomers, I think about the women in my family, right? I think about how hard they worked, to get through school, to get through college. I think about my grandmother who um lost her mother at 20 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
she had to raise her siblings, and then because she was so focused on raising her siblings began having children before she did, and then she was supporting them with their children, and so my grandmother didn't start having children until she was in her mid 30s, which was considered way old, um
Mm-hmm.
seeing as though she was born in 1921, and to see how she effectively raised all of her children, and the impact that she had on the lives of her grandchildren, and all of the things that she had to overcome, from not having the most formal education, to working in a domestic capacity for many many years, raising, being a single mom to 5 kids, and raising incredible kids, like, to me, like, that is just overcoming every odds you could think of, right? And so sometimes when I get in my little self-pity party, I have to remind myself, you come from overcomers, right? I look at my mom. My mom had me when she was really young, and she kept on going, she got her education, she focused on raising her children. And so I think when you think about overcomers and the people that you the people that you really love and admire, they have all overcome something that you didn't get to see.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that?
Agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah. So, and again, it transcends every area of life from professional to personal. It really, really does. What are some traits you think overcomers, just generally speaking, have?
Um, Resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
Think that overcomers know that they can do it. Like they know they can make it. We talk to our kids about being resilient and knowing that no matter what you're faced with, or believing that no matter what you're faced with, you can get through it. So even if it feels like it's something big, or even if it feels like it's something that you're never gonna get over, because I feel like, or I know that with my kids, not the kids I gave birth to, but my other kids, my middle schoolers, sometimes something will happen, like somebody might put something on social media, or or something may happen to them that's embarrassing, and they feel like life is over. Like, and I know to us it's like kind of like, so what, a little bit, but they're like, oh my goodness, I'm never coming back to school, I'm never going back in that cafeteria. Like life is over. And the thing is, just teaching them to understand, by next week, these people won't even be talking about that, because they're going to be talking about the next person that did something embarrassing or somebody said something about. So just letting them understand that you can get through this. You can get over this. You can stay here and you can get through this. So just being resilient and knowing that whatever this obstacle is, I can get over it. I can do hard things. I can, even if you don't truly believe it in your stomach, you just say it until you know it's true. Maybe that's too easy. If I just say it till you know it's true, because sometimes it's not that easy. But just being resilient and knowing that I can get I can get through this. And
But
just reminding yourself when you feel like you can't get through it, just reminding yourself that you can.
but I think you're right. You know how we always laugh and say we're talking to ourselves?
Mhm.
But I think it does. I think it matters. It may not click the first time you say it, the fifth
Mhm.
time, the 10th time, but I think the longer you are committed to telling yourself the story that you want to see and hear, you will overcome it,
Mhm.
right? If and so one of the traits that I think that all overcomers have to have is a passion or even a desirability for more,
Mhm.
right? Because if you're overcoming, that means you're stretching past where you once were. You're
Mhm.
overcoming it. So you're doing the and then some to make sure
Mhm.
that your situation is even better. And I think that starts in your mind, and that starts with the passion and the desire to change your circumstances.
Mhm.
Um, and I think what we see in women is specifically who are overcomers is the fact that they made a decision, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes I tell myself, Stacey, you got to make an executive decision about this.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And what I mean by that is you got to make an executive decision about where you stand on this.
Mhm.
And it's got to be so solid that even when you're tempted to do something different, you've already made that decision.
Mhm.
And I think that's what overcomers do. They make a decision from their desires, their passions, and then they move forward with intentionality, only focus on the things that are going to take them closer to the outcome of overcoming.
Mhm.
And I think, too, overcomers are people who are just, they just have, I remember my grandmother used to say when things would happen, I'll never forget, I had this beautiful white linen dress that I loved, and I got red fingernail polish all over it. And when I
Mhm.
tell you, I was devastated because I went back to the store to see if I could find the dress again. They didn't have any more. Like, I was devastated. And my
Mhm.
grandmother knew how devastated I was. And so she worked on that white linen dress for I don't know how long to get that red nail polish out of that dress, and she did, right? And I remember just the joy on her face from showing me that the dress was restored. And I just remember her saying so many times, but specifically that day, I don't let anything outdo me. I don't let anything outdo me. And sometimes when I'm having, again, a pity party by myself, I'll say, you come from a woman who told herself and everybody else, I don't let anything outdo me. And
Mhm.
so I think overcomers have made an executive decision that that's what they do. Like, they're
Mhm.
going to fall down,
Mhm.
but they're going to get back up. They're
Mhm.
going to figure out the next thing, the next way, the next, opportunity to make it great. Do you
Mhm.
agree with that?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
you've decided you're an overcomer. So it works both ways. You can decide that you're an overcomer, or you can decide that you're not. And you can
Yeah.
just decide to kind of let the chips fall where they may. But I think as someone who considers herself an overcomer, I think those are just some of the traits that have served me well. Just having that passion, that desirability, that willingness to get back up again when you fall and to
Mhm.
try again. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
anything you're working on overcoming right now that's shareable right now? Some things we can't talk about, right? Because um everything in due time and due season. Or maybe is there, something that you have been thinking about that you want to do?
So I was I was having a conversation the other day with someone about confidence. And I think that my confidence may not be where I need it to be.
Mhm.
So overcoming that fear, that feeling of, I don't want to say not being good enough, but not um knowing that I know what I know. Like I want to have that confidence, like I know what I know. And even though I know what I know, when it comes time to show up, sometimes I shrink. So I think that one of the things that I'm trying to overcome is that shrinking when I know I'm supposed to shine type of energy, you know? So I'm trying to overcome that. I'm trying to be better at that, right? That feeling or that energy, I guess,
Mhm.
trying to get myself better in that area. So that's something I'm trying to
And I
overcome.
think I think that's so good because I think a lot of women can relate to that.
Mhm.
Because there's so many people, right, that know what they know,
Mhm.
and who are oftentimes they silence themselves, maybe for fear of what other people may say or may think, or whatever the case may be. But let me tell you something. How
Mhm.
about being that person, right?
Mhm.
And then feeling like being that person pretty much all of your adult life, and
Mhm.
then now now you don't feel that way at all, and you
Mhm.
got to get back.
Mhm.
That's where I am. So I always felt really confident in what I
Mhm.
knew how to do, what I my interactions with other people, always felt super confident.
Mhm.
And over the last 3 years, you know, it's like I don't even know myself sometimes. Like,
Mhm.
was I really a confident person, or what was going on? So I'm at the place where I'm working to actively, because I told you one step I'm gonna make today.
Mhm.
I am actively trying to get get back, but you reminded me it's not about getting back, it's about even springing forward even
Mhm.
more. And I was just like, yeah, you're right. Like, you might have thought, you were this confident person, this bold, courageous person. Um, But what if God is getting ready to do something to show you that that was just the dress rehearsal, and that
Mhm.
you're coming back even better than you were before.
Mhm.
So it's a really, I can tell anybody it's a really challenging place to be, where you feel like you know who you are, you know where you're going, you know what you're doing, you know what you're called to do, only for life to begin to happen. Transitions in your personal
Mhm.
life, transitions in your family life, and your, in all of these dynamics. And now you're like, what do I do? Where do I go? Who do I talk
Mhm.
to? You don't even feel like you're the same person. But because I know I'm an overcomer, I
Mhm.
know that it's coming back.
Mhm.
I think I'm more willing now to make steps in that direction. It doesn't just magically happen, but we've got to make steps in that direction if
Mhm.
we really want to overcome. So that's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. Um, the confidence when you're young is a whole different kind of, it's a different kind of ball game.
Yeah, it
And I
is.
think it's supposed to be, because as you get older, your confidence is not just for you. If you're smart, you want to infuse other people with that, so that you give them permission to be as
Mhm.
confident as they need to be, and as they choose to be. And I think that's where we get challenged. A lot of things, it's about you, but as you get older, you realize it's about other people too.
Mhm.
So we know some major overcomers in this world, right? People who have been um, um, at the top of their game, and have chosen to rebound and to overcome. And I think it's got to be 10, 20, 100 times harder to do in the public eye.
Mhm.
Right. But we have some examples of women who have just been who've been overcomers. Let's talk about our first, Gianna, our first overcomer, the brat.
For the brat. So isn't she beautiful?
She's adorable.
So I think that she was the first female rapper to sell over, I think, over 1 million records or something like that. Like she was amazing when she was in the public eye, and she kind of came out, and she was exciting and different and on the scene, and it's like, this beautiful rapper, this beautiful lady rapper who, was doing some big things in the industry. And then she ended up, she hit a waitress or a hostess with a bottle, with a vodka bottle or a rum bottle or something. And so she got arrested for assault and battery, and she ended up being sentenced to 3 years in prison. So just imagine going from being at the top of your game to being in prison. And I think sometimes, I'm not going to say men get a, I think they don't get a pass necessarily, but women are looked at differently when they have to go through transitions like this. They're looked at differently when they have to when they make decisions that aren't the best. You know what I mean? And so she did some time. I think she ended up doing like a year or two, and then she had to do like community service. She had to be on probation for a few years. But when she came out, she even had a show called Brat Chronicles in Transition, and where
There's our word.
and there's the word transition, and talked about just getting back into life. You know what I mean? And she ended up getting another chance. She joined the Ricky Smiley Morning Show. She's married now. She ended up having a son at 50. So life is really great. She has a hair product line now. She just came out with a new song. So she is really doing well. Like, she really bounced back. Because what could have happened, she could have went to prison. She could have fell into some type of depression. She could have even come out. Sometimes people come out and then they just shut the world out. They're embarrassed. They, they have a hard time getting that groove back. And
Mm.
she could have done that, but instead of doing that, she started her life over. She overcame and started over. Overcame and started, and she was like 50, I think, when she had her son. Like,
Mhm.
yes.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And who knows what else she's getting ready to do, right?
Mm-hmm. No, she's not stopping.
She's not
She's not
stopping.
stopping.
I love that. I love that.
Mhm.
Now, this next diva, oh my gosh. Remy to the ma, honey. Remy to the ma. Let me tell you something. Remy is a bad girl. A bad girl. She rose to fame as a part of Fat Joe's Terror Squad, right? And I think their first hit was Lean Back.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you, they did all sorts of incredible things. She's definitely known as a pioneer in the female MC rap game. And I mean, she's known for her wordplay and just being so talented, right? Just, they say raw talent. She's won everything from BET Awards to Soul Train Music Awards. I mean, all of the things. And she's also a Grammy nominated rapper. So when I tell you she's done so many things, but in 2007, Remy Ma had an altercation with a friend. This person was her friend, and um, she went to prison. Like in 2008, she was sentenced to 8 years in prison, and she served 6 years in prison. I thought when you got like 8 years, you would only serve like half of the time, but she served six
Wow.
years in prison. Like that's a long time, right?
Mhm.
This wasn't like a year of her life, like 6 years, and she was already a mother, right? She had a long time significant other at the time, Papoose, who she married obviously when she was released from prison, and unfortunately they are going through a divorce right now. But I mean, even after 6 years in prison, she didn't miss a beat. Like, she got back in the studio, she got back doing the things that she loved. And so since that time, she's done all sorts of things. Of course, she's a internet personality. She has this huge following, and people have such respect for her in her rap game. She even had another baby.
Mhm.
She has that they call the golden child, right? Her and Papoose, and she really is adorable. I don't know her real name, but she's so adorable. But they even had another baby, so she didn't allow a 6-year bid in prison to stop her. And even now, I found out that she is starting the Remy Network, y'all. The Remy Network, and this is a new streaming platform that is scheduled to debut at the end of this month. So check it out. It's the Remy Network, and it's coming up on November 27th. So just great examples, right, of
Mhm.
women who have overcome. Another, this is my fave. She's one of my faves on earth, even though she's no longer with us. Whitney
Yeah.
Houston. I mean, we could have a whole episode about Whitney and the ups and downs of her career. Just being America's sweetheart, right? Being coined as America's sweetheart, having a voice that I believe this world will never be able to hear again in someone else, right? She was definitely, literally one of a kind, and her talent, and her legacy, it speaks for itself. But she went through a horrific time in her life, with drug abuse, alcohol abuse, all of the things. But she literally, before she died in 2012, she turned her life around, and she
Mhm.
started doing what she loved again, which was creating music. And she was on her way, I think, to a major, major place where she, would overcome all of those things. But sadly enough, she passed away before that. And of course, I even hate to think about how she passed away. But her life, I think it was just example, a huge example of women just overcoming, like, step by step by step, being able to do that. Were you a Whitney Houston fan? Do
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think that she's also an example of transitioning, getting stuck, overcoming, transitioning again, getting stuck, overcoming. Like in her life, there was so much, she had so much pressure, and there was so much that she had to be to so many people that at times she wasn't able to honor herself and put herself first. And that caused a lot of pain for her. And that ended up, making her make decisions that weren't the best ones. And she really went through a lot. She really went through a lot of changes and overcoming,
She
all the
did.
way until the end.
She absolutely did. So we love you, Nippy. We miss you. We still listen to your music though, right?
Okay.
We still listen to your music.
Mhm.
Now we get ready to take it back with this last one, but I think we would be remiss if we did not talk about the beautiful, the honorable Madam C.J. Walker, amongst the first, right, of all of the. I mean, when you think about it, in the 1800s, honey, she was living next to Rockefeller, right? She created. I mean, she overcome so many things. Like she was literally what they call back in the day a washerwoman, right? So she washed clothes for people. Like that's what she did on her hands with a washboard, washing. But she had such a dream in her heart, and she was even teased unmercifully for her appearance, for her hair, and she turned that around for good, and she created a brand, right? She created a
Mhm.
whole brand for hair care that literally made her a millionaire in the 1800s, a millionaire, selling tens of what she called, I think it was her magical hair grower. Don't quote me on that, but it was
Mhm.
something to that effect that she sold to women of color that looked like you and me. And
Mhm.
she was literally recorded as one of the first recorded female self-made millionaires in America. And that's even noted in the it's even noted in the Guinness Book of World Records. So she took something that caused her great pain and turned it into not just an opportunity for herself, but she also had women all over the country selling her product, earning money, making a living, right? Like she literally like revolutionized the game for so many women of color during a time where women of color were considered, nothing, insignificant, right? She turned it around and she made something great. And so she was able to overcome her first marriage, which was really abusive, and then her second marriage, where her husband was not faithful. She still continued growing her business and building her business, and her vision was so huge, and it included other women. So overcomer to the max. Would you agree?
Mhm. I agree. I
Mhm.
agree.
When we were in school, we learned about Madam C.J. Walker as little kids, but I think knowing just thinking about the time, right? Imagine us in the 1800s. What she was able to do, I think, was
Mhm.
absolutely amazing, and just amazing. So, all of that to say, we come from overcomers, ladies.
Mhm.
So if you're watching and listening, we want you to think about all of the women that you know that are overcomers. And obviously, we couldn't put them all on screen today, but think about the women who are closest to you who are overcomers. Think about, women who you admire who have overcome, great obstacles in their lives, but and are still moving forward. And think about the
Mhm.
things that you want to overcome as well, because I think it's in all of us, right? Like that's where we come from. So, woo, what do women need to do to start overcoming, Gianna?
Um, I'm gonna always say take care of yourself first. I'm gonna always say that, and that's something that it took me 48 years to learn. So I know that you know it can be hard sometimes, and I know that it may seem selfish. Self care isn't selfish, but take care of yourself. Feel your feelings. When you're going through it, feel the feelings. When it's hard. When you're sad, it's when I say you weepy, feel those feelings and then get back up. Get back up. because tomorrow is another day. And we can do so much. We can do so much. Sometimes we look at these obstacles and we look at things and we don't know how we're going to get through it. But and also remember, every obstacle that you had to face before today, you got through it because you're here.
That's
You
right.
here. You here facing another one. So that means every other one that you had before today, you got over it, under it, through it, however you did it, you did it. So you know you can get through this one. You know there's a way to do it.
Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
think if we had to put our whole conversation in a pattern, right? Because when you sew, it's good to have a pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that you know what you're doing. But if I had to put everything in a pattern, I think you said it so brilliantly, like you did it. Self-care, self-love, acknowledging yourself, leaning in to your feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
While simultaneously knowing that all feelings are not reliable, right?
Mm-hmm.
They change, they fluctuate, they go up, they go down, and all around. But again, I think making decisions on the front end about how you want to live your life through transition, whether it is to rely on your faith to get yourself through, whether it's to rely on whatever moves you, right? I think you've got to know what moves you to get through the phases of transition. And I think one of the things that we have to realize is that we have to expect to pivot and to transition,
Mm-hmm.
and to know that whatever, like you just said, whatever you're going through, you're going to get past it. My devotional said, guess what? Don't forget the things that God has done. Like, it's so easy to see, him perform one miracle and think that he can't do another. He can do countless miracles over and over and over again, but the expectation is so important. So I think if we put everything in a pattern, we've got to be gracious to ourselves, kind to ourselves, patient with ourselves, the way we are with other people, all while knowing that the destination that you choose to get to, you will get to,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll overcome.
You're
You
overcome.
are an overcomer. So if
Mm-hmm.
you didn't know that you were an overcomer before you got to this podcast, we want you to know that you are an overcomer. And we'll probably talk more about this because I think it's such a good thing for us to talk about. And I think talking to younger women now about expecting transition and being prepared for it as much as you can. I think it's important for any young listeners to know that, guess what, it's gonna happen, but you can prepare and start making decisions now to make it a little bit more palatable for you as those things come about, because they are coming, and they're not always bad, but they will challenge you. And you just got to be ready. If you have the opportunity to be ready, be ready. What do they
Mm-hmm.
say? If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Don't get ready.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's something, I think that's a piece of the pattern that's important. So this has been great, Gianna. We thank y'all for joining us.
You.
And it's just two beautiful women here talking about the things that are matter to us. And we hope that you found value, and we hope that you're excited about leaning into the transitions, all while knowing you are an overcomer. So, any last thought from you, Gianna?
I just second everything you just said.
I love it. I love it. Well, we're signing out for now. Until next time, we thank y'all so much.
Hi, thank
Thank y'all
you.
so much. Ciao.